I've got TJ with me. He'll be joining me to talk about some fantasy football. Thanks for joining me, TJ. And let's just jump right in. So when did you
Sure.
start playing fantasy football?
2005. My buddies and I I was starting to get big into the NFL around high school-ish time. And I heard on ESPN people playing fantasy football, so I kind of checked it out, and we played on Yahoo for the first couple of years. And then, eventually that's what Ricky's league is today, another one of our owners in the group. His league was kind of that first one that we ever played in. So 2005 was my inaugural year.
Well, that was a while ago. Now you're coming up on a 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
This next
yeah.
season.
And I think I had Peyton Manning, of course. Peyton Manning. We also were super quarterback. We played two quarterbacks. They all had 6-point touchdowns, which is why I was pretty affectionate to that rule, because that's what I grew up on. I'm used to Peyton Manning getting me 75 points a week.
Okay. Any other quirks that you guys had in your scoring system?
I think 50-yard field goals were 20 points or something ridiculous.
20 points?
I mean, we set a point for every category, because we just could. We had some crazy games, and then when Ricky joined us, Ricky's like, guys, okay, this is how we're doing things.
All right, so you've had a pretty rough season in the professional league. How about that team name? I've got to know. You mad, bro?
Yeah, pretty much. Scott and I were Scott Rumpel and I were looking at fantasy Reddit, and there was a thread. It was kind of what's the best pun name that you've seen? And somebody threw up "You Madden," and I was like, that's kind of funny. So I decided to change it from my original name, which was the sandwich shop in Utah was called Gandolfo's, but I could never say it right. It's Gandolfos. So I was like, that's gonna be my fantasy team name, and it was that way for a long time. But I think you critiqued everybody's name one year, and you were like, my name won the uniqueness award because you're just kind of it just seems like gibberish or something.
Yeah, I had no clue. I'm now that you've pronounced it for me in your version, that is never what I envisioned in my head. It was like Gandalufos or something, or
right.
It was easy when it was just the Gandys.
The Gandys, yeah, that was a good one.
So as I mentioned, you did have a rough season. Are there any bright spots that you'd like to call out? I know we gloss over teams that don't always make it to the playoffs, and we take a closer look into the ones that go all the way up. But is there something that you were excited about or proud about, a good call or decision you made this season?
A couple of them. DeMarco Murray, obviously. I think he surprised everyone in the fantasy world. I expected him to be top 10, but not anywhere near where he's at right now. And so beyond that, I was really happy with the Carlos Hyde pickup. And I've actually received a couple of offers that were pretty substantial for just Hyde, considering that I think he's top 6 dynasty running back right now to consider.
So you did beat Shane's preseason projections for your team. Are there any words you'd like to share about that particular accomplishment?
You know what, Shane? I'm only under 6 feet of crap now, okay? Okay, not 10, 6. That was kind of fun. The best part about it was, Shane and I had never really talked, and then just one day he's like, and then you have 10 feet of crap, and then Jake, and I was like, what did I do?
Are there any keepers that we can see and associate with you and your team for the next several seasons that you see yourself keeping and going forward with?
DeMarco Murray, probably for at least a year or two, depending on where he goes. I don't know if Dallas is going to re-sign him, because with that offensive line, you can pretty much pay a cheap running back to do decently well. And then probably Dez Bryant for another year or two. Those two mainly. Everyone else probably not, especially I gotta let go of Cam Newton and your favorite player, Wes Welker. He'll be available now.
That's a topic we're going to address here in a couple bullet points.
So yeah, and it just by habit, coincidence, they are Cowboys, but they are also good players. So you can definitely see them on my team for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so you mentioned Hyde, Carlos Hyde. Are there what sleeper are you most excited about on your team for next season?
Definitely, Carlos Hyde. I mean, I'd have to say that, but I kind of touched on him already. Gore is going to probably be gone. I mean, he's 32, like 31 or 32. So and he also is suffering from injuries right now. So I think his time in San Francisco is done. They'll probably have a new head coach, and they'll actually probably want to build around Hyde as well. So I'm super excited for him to be on my team right now. And also I can kind of maybe see holding on to Brandon LaFell. He feels like he's Tom Brady's like go-to wideout. I mean, Gronk's obviously the number one target still, but LaFell has definitely had his moments. Um, so yeah, kind of a sleeper-ish Hyde LaFell area for sure.
So we all know that you're a huge fan of Jamal Charles.
Uh,
I was wondering what you thought about
okay,
Cam Newton.
listen here. For those who don't know, okay, okay, I don't even know when it happened, like 2012 maybe. I drafted Jamal Charles first round pick for like $65. First half of the first game, torn ACL, out for the season. He entered my shit list, which was made up on the spot, and I have been anti Jamal Charles ever since. And Cam Newton has now made that list as well. So I will never draft Cam Newton in any league, and I will never trade for Cam Newton in any league. However, I do have an announcement. Jamal Charles' shit list has been lifted. He is
What
now back into available players that I now respect. So it's only one player still, but Cam has definitely made the ranks.
so what is this, like a probationary period of time? You'll get over your anger over a period of time.
Eventually, like, okay.
All right, so I had this question. You already brought him up, but I wrote this down so when I planned this interview. Will you ever
Sure.
drop Wes Welker? For
I think
our viewers,
I have
for
to
our
like
viewers,
keep him out of just like spirit now. Like
right? He's got to sit. So for our viewers,
eventually,
TJ's been a Wes Welker fan for some time now, and every time we talk about what he can change on his team, the first thing I say is Wes Welker's still on your
you're
team.
like, let me know your team. You know what? Pick up Cody Latimer instead, just so you don't have Welker.
All right. So, how do you feel about your trade for Des Bryant? This was fairly recent. You gave up Frank Gore and Odell Beckham. Was that trade intended to help this season or next?
um, a little of both. So I've been getting some like mixed comments. Like it's funny, especially when Odell Beckham catches like two touchdowns. One of them's insane, and he gets 200 yards or whatever. But ESPN eats that up because he's a rookie receiver, where Des Bryant does that like every other week. So one of the thing that went into that trade mostly was one of the things that I've never done is go into a season with a bona fide top five wide receiver, somebody that can start at WR1 every week and not worry about it. And so I'm going to try to address that this upcoming season with that keeper. I want to go with Dez, start him WR1, and kind of see how he can help me. And I know I traded away a lot of talent and a huge keeper value in Odell, but also, I mean, like when he and Victor Cruz were on the field at the same time, he caught 4 passes for like 30 yards. And then, I mean, like I feel like Cruz is still going to be the receiver in New York for at least a couple of years. And then I also took into account that although Dez is a little bit expensive, Murray's cheap. So if I average them out, I'm kind of getting a RB1 and WR1 for about $35 a piece. You know what, though? We can't gloss over the fact that trade was with you. How do
Right.
you feel about that trade?
Okay. So the next part of this question is there was a third party involved on the back end of that trade, and it appears the middleman did not come out so well. We played a little musical chairs with Des Bryant, Odell Beckham, and Randall Cobb entered the discussion. And since then, Randall Cobb has been poop.
That's good.
And Odell Beckham and Des has continued to do his thing and maintain where he's at, and Odell Beckham has just gone nuts. So, what are your thoughts there? You think I made the right call?
Uh, it's kind of hard to say now because Odell's just crazy, but I think you did. Aaron Rodgers he's playing lights out right now, and he hit a rough patch at the worst possible time. Um, I actually would pick Cobb over Eldell. Who would have known that Jordy would have had the season like he did? I still feel like Cobb's the number one guy there. Um, but you're not one to kind of like dynasty it up, I should say. So I thought you were like turning over a bit of a new leaf. Like, I like your young guy. Let's make a trade. And I was like, oh, cool. Like Zach and I are like trying to changing philosophies a little bit here. Immediately trades for Cobb.
Immediately.
No.
I had Derek on the phone too. I was like, I don't know if I can pull the trigger unless you're in. So as far as trading goes, any particular owners you'd like to commend on ease of trading with?
Well, it's a little biased, but Chris and we work together right next to each other, and we literally talk about trades all day. So Chris is really easy to trade with because before the trade goes out, we've already looked at like 17 different ways it could work. You're pretty easy to trade with, and so is Derek. I tend to like drunk message Derek trades and then I don't respond or just go back on it, so I feel bad like that. But Derek's always open to talk, and he's pretty good at being biased for both sides, except when you trade Demaryius Thomas for Bishop Sankey. He's probably just like, this is a deal of a lifetime. I got to let it go through. But, I feel like you, Derek, Chris are probably the easier ones to trade with.
All right, here's your chance. Anyone you want to call out, maybe unresponsive or can't ever pull the trigger?
Curtis, man. Curtis is the most stubborn SOB in this league when it comes to trades, dude. He wants your best player on your team for anything. Like, here's your options. I want your best player. That's it. Like, I mean, at least he brings to the table exactly what he wants. But like, dude will not budge on anything. It's kind of frustrating at times. Just give me Greg Olsen, Curtis. That's all I wanted.
Okay, so in Season 1, 2012, your team attended the playoffs. Since then, your team has slowly regressed, placing in 9th and 10th overall since then. What's it going to take to get your team back into a playoff run?
If I knew the answer to that, I'd probably be in the playoffs. No. I think one thing that I was doing differently this year that I thought was a lot more successful was streaming a defense. I had never done that in the past. So I think if I stick to that strategy of streaming a defense, that'll help overall. And I have to let go of my like personal love for some players, some older aging players like Wes Welker and Frank Gore and Reggie Bush. And I mean, like I'm holding on to their name value as opposed to kind of what they can do now. So I've already tried to get away from that a little bit. And then I gotta draft a better quarterback. As you know, the quarterback play killed me this year.
Between each season, we discuss any rules changes for the following season.
I mean, I'm a fan of if you find a gem on the waiver wire, like, and it's a keeper league, keep them. But we got to do something about people like. Somebody picked up AP for $1. I mean, Derek did it for $6, so he's got to hold on to him for 11. But still, that's AP for $11. I'm going to hold on to Ridley probably for $6 because he might go somewhere else and be a starting running back for $6. So I like the fact that you can hold on to waiver players, but I think there needs to be some sort of penalty adjusted to kind of like dumping your team for injured reserve players that haven't been on a bench all year. Like maybe if they haven't been on a roster for longer than like 2 or 3 weeks, you can't keep them if you pick them up. I don't know.
Or is this kind of what you're referring to? So we like to do a spotlight feature when I interview individuals, and we've talked about kickers in the past, and this time TJ would like to address his opinion on Dynasty.
I think we should move to a pure Dynasty with a redraft, not an auction draft, because I just feel like it's a more pure form of playing fantasy football when you have a dynasty like this. And draft picks and trades and waiver pickups definitely feel more meaningful to me, at least, if I'm like okay, I'm committed to this guy for a long time, or man, like Cam's killing me, like I gotta trade him or I gotta drop him and try to find like maybe Mark Sanchez is gonna take me to the next level, or I just feel like people would take more time with their moves. It would be more meaningful interaction between the owners. However, it would make the draft very dull, which is, in my opinion, probably the best part of fantasy football is getting together for the draft. Um, but I am not a fan of the auction draft dynasty league anymore. And I keep changing my opinion, but I'm kind of, now that I've played in a couple keeper leagues for a couple of years now, I've kind of like honed out what I like and what I don't. So I'm kind of the full keeper dynasty. You know, if you drop a player, then and let's say Barris goes first because he's last place, and who's ever up on the waiver board, he picks them. Like, kind of how we originally set up the pro league, where it was going to be NFL style with a certain amount of keeper leagues. So instead of 4, it's just whoever you want, and then.
Okay.
This is the second thing, real quick. Anytime you talk about rule changes, and Chris is the worst at this, you got to go, well, you can't do it until next year. You can't do it until 2 years from now, because I drafted last year thinking that these were the rules, and that's fair and all, but eventually...
Who's the worst at this? Chris? You calling out Chris?
Chris is the worst. At any rule change, Chris is the worst. You always got to wait 5 years until you can make a rule change. Ridiculous. Oh, we gotta wait until my players retire, and then we can.
I have to say Shane would be on the same boat, and I guess I kind of have to too, because every decision I make, I keep in. Well, I try to.
Yeah, right.
Let's talk about. You're a big fan of the Dallas Cowboys. Why are they your favorite team?
Well, when I was growing up, I was really close to my uncle because he was like. Not really my age, but he was not an adult yet. He was still a teenager. And I liked anything he liked, and he loved the Cowboys. And so I was kind of like, oh, I guess I'll root for the Cowboys too, And so kind of just a lame story like that. But then I kind of found out that he was a bandwagon fan because then the Rams were his favorite team when Kurt Warner was playing, and I was like, but I thought you liked the Cowboys because I liked everything that you did. He's like, no, I've always been a Rams fan. I was like, I don't know about that. So yeah, that was back when it was like the 49ers Cowboys rivalry,
right.
And it was during the mid 90s when they were dominant. So that's probably why he liked them, is because they always won. And so. Yeah, that's kind of my fandom starting right there.
All right, are they going to do the playoffs this year?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they'll get a win this week against Indy, and then I think we need some help from whoever's playing Seattle, and then I think we should be able to make it in. If we don't win the division, we're not getting in. So we have to win out, and we have to hope that the Eagles lose. So we need some help, but I feel like we're primed to get in.
Cool deal. So we'll move this into a little bit more of a personal area. I'd like to personally congratulate you on your success with your health and fitness. You recently posted on Facebook showing you'd lost over 100 pounds. What motivated you to get started? That's quite an undertaking.
It was kind of a New Year's resolution, as cheesy as that is. So January 6th, I swore off sugar and did the keto diet, which is basically no carbs, drinking water all day. And I was like, I just want to do it 1 week. Just do it 1 week and see what happens. And I lost like 15 pounds in 1 week. And I was like, damn, this could work. Like, I could lose 15 pounds a week. I'm okay with that. And the next thing I know, it's 10, and then it's 10 more. And then eventually after like the first month and a half, I was down like 35 pounds. And I was like, this is crazy. And then, my brother-in-law Josh, who I owe a lot of my success to and a big motivating factor in my life, he was like, "Hey, let's go to the gym and let's start working out a little bit." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." And so I kind of did this routine of like eating better and working out for like 2 or 3 months, and then my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He actually had a tumor on his gallbladder, he had some inspiring words for me and kind of like, don't live the life that I did. Like, you need to get healthy so you're there for your kids and all this, a lot of emotional stuff. And that kind of like pushed me over the edge to kind of like take it 110%, which is kind of put me where I am at today.
Congratulations, man. That gives you the goosebumps. It's got to feel pretty terrific. What's your favorite workout exercise routine?
Um,
I know you like the legs.
I love, yeah, I love leg pressing, especially when I do like my max reps. It's just like, just all the plates are on there. You're like 900 pounds. Like, yeah. I really like. There's this exercise that Josh taught me. That's called champagne, and it's basically like a dumbbell chest press, but you come down close grip, and you dip them down like you're drinking champagne, and like you come up and down. And you know what? Like that's the most unique exercise of dumbbells that I've ever done. And so I probably think that's probably my favorite. And also, I've grown very fond of the lat pull down, because it makes your back look awesome.
Yes, sir. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I'm going to ask you potentially the most important question of the entire interview.
Uh-oh.
Who's going to win the Pro Fantasy Football Super Bowl?
Okay, can I take a look at the matchup real quick? Like, I want to see the.
Yeah, you can look at the matchup.
I know it's you.
The last I checked, the projections were within half a point of each other.
Really?
The last I checked, I think it was 126 to about 125 and a half or something.
I show 134 to 136.
Oh, so some changes have been made, but it's still damn close.
God damn. I don't like your running backs, but
who does? I don't like
the middle of your lineup is so scary.
Yes, every other position's pretty solid.
I'm gonna have to. You know what?